Five things. What is basically IPS, why people feel problem during the IPS, and why people score minimum marks in the IPS, how to improve the IPS, and a few examples of the IPS. Hello guys, assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Faraz Ahmad. So today in this video, this is a very important video of Plab 2 series. So we will talk about the IPS. Everyone who is going to appear in Plab 2 exam must be knowing that your stations in Plab 2 are assessed on the basis of history, your management skills, and your IPS. So there will be 4 marks for the history, 4 marks for the management, and there will be 4 marks for the IPS. So your IPS is not a separate entity. When you will be taking history and when you will be telling management to your patient, your IPS will be assessed during whole of your conversation and your consultation. So IPS is basically something out of history and management. You are asking history from the patient and you are telling the management to the patient. So anything that is out of history and management is basically your IPS. Basically IPS includes patient-centered conversation. If your conversation is patient-centered, you are developing trust with your patient, you are taking your patient in your confidence, your patient is satisfied with your conversation, you are showing sympathy and empathy to the patient, and you are telling the patient the things, you are telling the patient management in a way like patient is understanding your options. So this means that your IPS is very good. So let me tell you that what patient-centered consultation or the conversation is. So basically suppose there are the two things. You know all the steps of the management and now you are in the final year of the medical school and you have to tell all the steps to the examiner. The second thing is this, now you are in the hospital, you are working as a FY2 doctor and now you have to tell all the steps to the patient. So there is a difference between telling the steps of management to the examiner and telling the steps of management to the patient. So if you are going to tell the steps of management to the patient like you were supposed to tell the examiner, then definitely you are going to score very low marks in the IPS. Because you are telling the patient like your patient is your examiner? No. You have to tell the patient the steps of the management, the everything in the management, like if you were a patient and you were expecting like your doctor will explain you everything. So let's discuss the second thing, why people feel problem in the IPS. So the answer is this, because doctor thinks that IPS is something like history and management and they try to memorize the different sentences. So this is the problem, they score very less marks in the IPS. So the third question is this, why people score very low marks in the IPS? The answer is the same, because people are scripted. People think that we have to memorize few sentences and a few lines in our mind and we have to repeat, we have to verbalize these lines during our consultation. So this is the reason people score very less marks in the IPS. So let me tell you that there are few common lines. Everyone try to verbalize these lines during the conversation. Like most of the students, like 99% of the students of the doctor, when patient will tell something, their response will be, oh, I'm really sorry to hear about that. It must be very difficult for you. It must be very frustrating for you. So these are the very common lines. Almost every person, every student, every doctor who is going to appear in the Plab 2, they are going to verbalize repeatedly. So when you are going to verbalize these lines, there is no sympathy, there is no empathy during these lines, there is no human touch, there is no feeling. You are just verbalizing these lines because you have memorized these lines in your mind. So this is the reason, because you are scripted, you are just verbalizing the things, there is no feeling, there is no human touch, there is no sympathy or empathy. This is the reason you are scoring very less marks in the IPS. So now I will tell you that how to improve your IPS. So the first rule to improve your IPS is that you should be natural, because people keeps on memorizing the things and the sentences, and when they are telling the things, because they have everything in their mind, they are saying that, oh, I'm really sorry to hear about that, this must be very difficult for you. At least if you are saying these things, you should focus on these words. Because people have memorized these things repeatedly in their mind and people are thinking about the management, and now people are thinking about something else and they are thinking it must be very difficult for you. please at least try to focus on the words what you are saying to the patient. So this is the reason that you are scoring very less marks in the IPS, because you are not concentrating on the words what you are saying. When you will concentrate on the words, you have to say, I am really sorry to hear about that. You have to say this sentence in a lot of cases, in a lot of stations. When you will concentrating on the words what you are speaking, definitely you will have human touch and you will have feeling with these words and you will score good in your IPS. So the first thing to improve the IPS is you should be natural. And the second point, the second rule to improve your IPS is, please try to draw the IPS from patient history or from the patient concerns. Like patient is telling you something, please try to draw the IPS from the patient things. So now I will give you few examples that how I improved my IPS and how I draw the IPS from the patient words. So in my first attempt of the Plab 2 exam, I have told you multiple times that I scored only 21 marks in the IPS and I got failed with 1 marks only and with 1 station, and my score in the IPS was 21. So in the second attempt, I basically focused on the IPS. So let me give you 3 or 4 examples that how I improved my IPS. So there was a case of analgesic nephropathy. When I took the history from the patient, everything was normal. There was no urinary complaint or anything, so he was perfectly fine. When he asked the patient that you have no problem, you have no symptoms, then why did you come to the hospital today? He told me that doctor, my wife sent me here. So this thing clicked in my mind. I told the patient that, oh, having a lovely wife, a loving wife is a blessing of God. I told the patient that I got married a few months back and I am a type 1 diabetic and my wife keeps on reminding me about my GP visits and about my annual checkups. So these things worked for me, and because this was out of course for the patient and for the examiner, and they give me 4 marks in the IPS. Let me give you another example where I scored 4 marks in the IPS. So there was a 4-year-old girl. She was out with her mother for a shopping and she developed fits over there. And mother was very concerned for her daughter, although she was stable at that time. So this thing clicked in my mind. You know, when I was there in the United Kingdom for my Plab 2 exams, so God blessed me with a daughter in the Pakistan. So my daughter was in the Pakistan and I was in the United Kingdom, so I was missing her a lot. So this thing clicked in my mind and I told this story to the patient. I told her that being a father, I can feel your situation at this moment, as I have a 2-month-old daughter. Although I have not seen her yet, but I always feel concerned for my daughter. So this was out of syllabus for the patient and for the examiner, and I scored 4 marks in the IPS of this station as well. So there was another case of temper tantrum. In that case, mother was so much concerned about her 6-year-old child, and in that case, I again repeated the same phrase, same story of my daughter, and I scored 4 marks in the IPS. So there was another case of the DKA. Patient was getting admission to the hospital with the repeated DKA in few months, and now patient was not, agree for the admission in the hospital. So what I did in that case, let me tell you a story as well, because I am a type 1 diabetic since 2011 when I was in my school days. So I told this story to my patient. I told my patient, let me tell you a story. You know that I am a diabetic as well for last 12 years. And in these 12 years, I only had 1 episode of the DKA. I told my patient that you are having repeated DKA and now you are not interested in the hospitalization. I told her that if you will not be hospitalized, you will not receive the management. This can harm you. This can create problem for your memory. This can take you to the coma and everything like this. Then I told her that being in the DKA is not a problem, but not receiving the treatment of the DKA can create problem for you. Because I tell my own story to the patient, I try to took my patient in the confidence, I tried to build the trust with my patient because I was telling my personal story to the patient. So this is the reason this was out of syllabus for the patient and for the examiner, and I scored 4 marks in the IPS of this station as well. So guys, in this way I totally passed 13 station in my exam, and in 7th station I scored 4 marks in the IPS. In remaining 6 stations I scored 3 marks in the IPS, and 3 of my stations were fair. So this is the reason, because I was totally natural. I was not memorizing the lines. I was, extracting. I was drawing the IPS from the patient own conversation, from patient own history. So this is the reason, and I was quite natural, because telling the story of my own and telling my concerns regarding my daughter and telling the loving nature of my wife to my patient, I was totally natural, and this is the reason I scored 4 marks in the IPS of 7th station. So this should be your strategy as well. I am hopeful that this video will definitely help you. Please don't try to memorize the thing. Try to draw the IPS from the patient words and patient concerns. Thank you very much.